Butternut squash is a popular vegetable in many households, particularly during the fall and winter seasons. With its sweet and nutty flavor and soft texture, it is a versatile ingredient that can be used in many dishes. One of the challenges of cooking with butternut squash, however, is preparing it for cooking. It has a tough exterior that can be difficult to cut through without the right tools and techniques. In this article, we will explore some methods for cutting butternut squash that can make the process much easier. Method 1. Using a chef's knife. One of the most common methods for cutting butternut squash is to use a chef's knife. Start by cutting off both ends of the squash with a sharp knife. This will create flat surfaces on both sides of the squash, making it easier to work with. Next, stand the squash upright on one of the flat ends and carefully slice it in half lengthwise. Scoop out the seeds and fibrous center with a spoon, and then cut each half into slices or cubes as desired. Method 2. Using a vegetable peeler. Another method for cutting butternut squash is to use a vegetable peeler. This method is particularly useful if you need to remove the tough outer skin of the squash. Start by cutting off both ends of the squash with a sharp knife. Then, use a vegetable peeler to remove the skin in long strips, working your way around the squash until all the skin is removed. Once the skin is removed, slice the squash in half lengthwise. Scoop out the seeds and fibrous center, and then cut it into slices or cubes as desired. Method 3. Using a cleaver. For those who have a heavy-duty cleaver, this method can be a quick and easy way to cut butternut squash. Start by cutting off both ends of the squash with a sharp knife. Then, stand the squash upright on one of the flat ends, and use the cleaver to slice it in half lengthwise. Use the cleaver to chop the squash into smaller pieces or cubes as desired. Method 4. Roasting whole squash if you prefer to cook your butternut squash whole. Roasting it is a great option. Simply preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Pierce the squash a few times with a fork or knife to allow steam to escape, and then place it on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Roast the squash for about 45 minutes to an hour, or until it is tender when pierced with a fork. Let the squash cool for a few minutes, and then cut it in half lengthwise. Scoop out the seeds and fibrous center, and then use a spoon to scoop out the flesh. In conclusion, there are several methods for cutting butternut squash that can make the process much easier. Whether you prefer to use a chef's knife, vegetable peeler, cleaver, or roast the squash whole, with a little practice and patience, you can prepare this delicious vegetable for your favorite recipes.